Okay, so tonight's topic is a very relevant topic, and that is, may one recite Kiddush on whiskey and other drinks? Now, often it's the minhag today, and the unique thing is that often minhagim today that are questionable from the Gemaras don't often have sources in pre-World War II Yiddishkeit. But this is one that does, right? So many people will make Kiddush Shabbos day. Again, we have the Friday night Kiddush. We have the Shabbos day Kiddush. We have Havdalah. We have Benshim. We have many times that we use what's called a Kos Shel Bracha. That we use a cup. We recite whatever it is on wine. And the question is, are we bound only by wine? We can only use wine? Or is it permissible to use other drinks as well? So the Shabbos day Kiddush, many people will make their Kiddush on whiskey, on vodka. So is that acceptable? Because the ma'aseh, the halacha we know is wine, is yain. That's what we're going to go through. So this might potentially turn into a two-part series where we get the fundamentals this week and hopefully see in Igros Moshe, and then next week see how the poskim understand the fundamentals. That's always what the real geschmack is. So we'll start with number one. Gemara Pesachim Daf Kuf Zayin. The Gemara says, Amalei Mar Yenuka, Umar Shisha Breda Rav Chisda Rav Ashi. So Rav Chisda had two sons. The Gemara doesn't tell us their names. They're called Mar Yenuka, the younger, Mr. Younger, and Mr. Older. Now Yenuka, Mar Shisha, both the sons of Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda's two sons. They were telling Rav Ashi a story that happened to them. They say, Zim Nechada one time, Ikla Ameimar La'asrin. So Ameimar came to our town. We didn't have wine to give him. So he brought him beer, but he would not recite Havdalah on the beer that we brought him. And therefore he fasted. If he can't make Havdalah, he can't eat. So he fasted. We paskin that if you don't have the ability to make Havdalah, Motzei Shabbos, you're allowed to eat. You only can't eat if you're going to be making Havdalah. If you're not going to be making Havdalah until Monday morning, you can eat right away on Motzei Shabbos. After you make Havdalah, at least the pet. But he didn't eat. Ameimar didn't eat. So on Sunday, we mamish went with a big tircha, and we finally were able to procure some wine for him. So he made Havdalah on that wine Sunday morning, let's say, and then he ate some. The next year, Ameimar comes again to Rav Chisda's children's house, or probably Rav Chisda's house. And again, we didn't have wine. So Aisina Shichro, we brought Ameimar, again we brought him the beer to make Havdalah. It's interesting, the Gemara doesn't talk about what happened on Shabbos. Maybe Ameimar wasn't with them for Shabbos, it was just their Motzei Shabbos. But again, the Ma'aseh was Motzei Shabbos, he's coming to make Havdalah. They bring him beer. Amar, now Ameimar says, if this is the case, Chamar Medinahu, this is called Chamar Medina, Avdil V'Tam Midi. So he made Havdalah and he ate after he made Havdalah. So something changed in Ameimar's mind from the first year to the second year. When he sees the second year already, they don't have wine. If that's the case, this is Chamar Medina and I can make Havdalah. So it would seem that the acceptability of using Chamar Medina depends on whether we have access to wine, if there is wine. So in the first year, he thought they had wine, just punked. Today they didn't have wine. I can't make Havdalah on beer. But if I see that consistently there's no wine, then we can use Chamar Medina. And that's what the Rashbam in the box on the right says. Chamar Medina, Ein Yayin Acher Be'ir. There is no wine in the city. Hazois in the city. Ki Im Sheichar, the only chashva drink they have is beer. Hilkach Mavdilin Boy V'chein Halacha. Therefore we can make Havdalah on this beer, that's the halacha. But water, the Rashbam points out, even if that's all people drink, is never called Chamar Medina. Water cannot be Chamar Medina. So it sounds like from the Rashbam that there's two qualities to Chamar Medina. In order to be able to make Havdalah, at least, on other drinks besides wine, it has to be that wine is not available. And it has to be a certain level of chashivas, a certain level of importance to the drink, and water is not going to make that cut. Okay? That's part number one from the Gemara. There's four parts that we're going to see from the Gemara. Part number two. Rav Huna asked Rav Chisda the following question. Could you make Kiddush on beer? Now, this question is being asked in general. It doesn't sound like it's dafka in a place where there is no wine, although you could say that he is talking about that place. You could say that the whole discussion of Chamar Medina only comes in, it's only relevant once there's no wine, but it sounds like a question is being asked. Can you make Havdalah on Shechra? If I didn't know the previous Gemara, I would say even if there is wine, he's wondering, can you make beer on Shechra? Can you make Kiddush on beer? So Rav Chisda said back to him, Amar, he said, Hashto ma pirzuma u'te'eli v'isni. When it comes to, I think it's pomegranate beer, barley beer, and fig beer, the boy named Mirav, that we asked Rav, that the stam beer of the Gemara is date beer. So when Rav Huna asked Rav Chisda, can you make Kiddush on beer? He was referring to date beer. The beer we have today is barley beer. So Rav Huna said back to him, I already asked Rav about the other beers. Rav then asked his uncle, Reb Chia mi Rebbe, and then Reb Chia asked Rebbe. Rav didn't know, Reb Chia didn't know. They went to Reb Yehuda Hanasi, and he didn't really know. He wasn't sure. He wasn't sure if he can or can't. So you have a question if date beer you can make Kiddush on. If we're not sure about these other ones, then I guess he's saying date beer for sure not, but date beer would be a shaila. So halach l'maisa, you can't make Kiddush on date beer. So says the Gemara, fine. So who's Savar? He thought, Rav Chisda thought, you can't make Kiddush on these beers, but Havdalah you could make. And Rav Huna said back to him, Rav Chisda said back to him, so Rav Huna had a thought that maybe we can differentiate between Havdalah and Kiddush. Maybe Havdalah is less stringent. We know Kiddush is the Raisa Friday night. Havdalah is not. So, okay, so maybe Havdalah is different. But then Rav Chisda said, no, just like you can't use Chamar Medina, you cannot use beer for Kiddush, you can't use for Havdalah. Okay, fine. Again, we see in this Gemara that Chamar Medina is going to depend on Chashivas. I mean, what was the Rabbi Nasi Safek? I mean, Rav Chisda responded, the more Chashiv beers Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi wasn't sure about, of course, you're less chashiv drink. So again, chashivas is for sure playing a role in what's called Chamar Medina. Gemara number 3. Levi Shadalei L'Rebbe Shichra Bar Pleisar Megige. So Levi sent a very chashiv beer, 13-barrel beer to Rebbe. Tameh, he tasted it. Havabasim Tuva was so good. Amar Kagoin Zeh, Roy L'Kadishal. This you can make Kiddush on. And you can sing any song and praise Hashem on this. This is like the best beer I've ever tasted. So again, and there's no discussion here about if wine is available, if wine is not available. As long as it's very chashuv, as long as it's chaviv, the drinker really likes it, it sounds like from these Gemaras that you could make Kiddush on it. Whereas the first Gemara was clear from Ameimar, it's only if there's no wine available. These Gemaras seem to be going, especially this Gemara, where Rebbe is saying that across the board, you can make Kiddush on this. It's so good you make Kiddush on it. So it sounds like even if wine is available. The last Gemara we'll see. Rav Ashkechei, Rav Huna, the Kiddush HaShichra. Rav found that Rav Huna was making beer on Shichra, which is interesting because the previous case, the previous 2 Gemaras ago, we had Rav Huna asking Rav Chisda, can you make Kiddush on date beer? And Rav Chisda told him that Rav Chia, and Rabbi Nasi, they're all not sure. Here we have Rav Huna making Kiddush on date beer. Rav finds him, and Rav says to him, Amalei Shari Abel Mikne Istri Mishichra. What does that mean? Let's see the Rashbam. So first of all, the Rashbam says that Rav saw Rav Huna making Kiddush on beer. Even though there was wine in his town, there was wine there. Rav Huna wanted to use the beer because he liked the beer more than he liked the wine. The Gemara said earlier, so Rav responded that his chilasei shecher must be Rav Huna started making beer. To make for his parnasa. So once you started making beer, you got very into it, into your beer, so it became chaviv to you. So Rav, who observed Rav Huna using the beer for Kiddush, said, it must be you started making beer, and now it's so chaviv to you. So it seems like Rav was saying, as long as it's chaviv, as long as you like it, and it's a chashuv drink, you can make Kiddush l'chatchila. And Rashbam says, even if there's wine in the city. So it appears you have machloikis amoyroim, if Chamer Medina is only if there's no wine available, or even if wine is available, as long as it's chaviv to you, as long as you like it, and it's a good quality, then you could use it. Right? So it's a big nafkamina for us. So Shabbos morning, the next time we have Kiddush from Shabbos day, after shul, so can I make Kiddush on whiskey? So if it has to be chaviv, many people like whiskey more than wine. And you can argue that when you go to someone's house for like a gathering, whiskey is the drink of choice, scotch is the drink of choice more than wine is. So according to these later Gemaras, you can make Kiddush l'chatchila on the whiskey. But according to the first Gemara, Meimar, it's only if there's no wine available. And Baruch Hashem, we do have wine available. So whether you can make Kiddush on whiskey Shabbos day, at least today, would depend on these Gemaras. So number 2, the Rambam, Paschas in Hilchos Shabbos, towards the end of Perek Chavtes, Medina sheroiv yena shecha. A Medina, a country where the majority of their wine, quote unquote, is beer. Afa pishu pasal Kiddush. Paschas the Rambam, even though for Kiddush it's for sure no good. Mutar lahavdil alav hoyelvu chamer Medina. You can make avdal. And the Rambam mentions nothing about not having wine available. The Rambam does say that roiv yena shecha, the majority of the wine of this Medina is beer. So what does that mean? So Pashup Pshat, simple understanding, is it means that the drink of choice is beer. That's the drink of choice. Then it gets the status of Chamer Medina. It's just the Rambam holds the Chamer Medina is only, you can only make Havdalah on it. You can't make Kiddush on it. Kiddush is different. We'll see in the Mishnah why. Kiddush is different. You cannot make Kiddush on Chamer Medina. But as far as the definition of when is it applicable Chamer Medina, so the Rashbam said when there's no wine available, in which case today it's not relevant. But the Rambam says even when wine is available, if the drink of choice is beer, you can make Kiddush, at least Havdalah on beer. Okay. Number 3, we come to the Torah, and the Torah says, in a place where wine is not available, you can make Kiddush on beer. This is even Kiddush Friday night. Right? Stam Kiddush. This is Simon Reish Ayin Beis. Simon Reish Ayin Beis is talking about Friday night Kiddush. The different Simon talks about Shabbos day Kiddush. So the Torah Paskins, he brings a Shita, you can make Kiddush on beer Friday night when wine is not much, so it's not available. Ushar Mashkin, other drinks. Since wine is not available. Therefore, the other drinks get the status of Char Medina, that's like the Rashbam. Pirish Rashbam, Shenikru Char Medina, Kishein Yain B'chol Ha'ir. So the Rashbam says it has to be, and that was the Lashon of the Rashbam, that nowhere in the city can you get wine. Today, we'd have to say that, like nowhere in the country, because if you can't get wine here, you can get it shipped down from New York. That's not a problem. So in a place where the whole city doesn't have access to wine, that's where the Rashbam says you can use Chomer Medina. So that wouldn't help us today. We wouldn't be able to use it. Others say it has to be already a day's trip around the city. You don't have wine. The Rambam seems to hold, the Rambam, that you can never make Kiddush on Chomer Medina. He quotes our Rambam. Okay, so the tour is bringing 3 shitas vis-a-vis Kiddush. One is if there's no wine available in the city. Opinion number 2, if there's no wine available in the city and within a day's trip out of the city. Opinion number 3 is you can never make Kiddush on Chomer Medina on beer, and that's the Rambam. Okay, now let's get to the halacha. Says the Mechaber, number 4. Shulchan Aruch Paskins in Reish Ayin Beis of Tes. But Makom She'ein Yayin Matzo, in a place where yayin, where wine is not found. Yesh Oimrim Shemakadshin Al Sheichar V'Shar Mashkin Chutz Mayim. Some say you can make Kiddush this even Friday night on beer and other such drinks. That's so the first. That's the Rashbam. The Yesh Oimrim She'ein Makadshin, and others say you can never make Kiddush on beer. That's the Rambam. So the Mechaber brings the Rosh and he brings the Rambam. 2 Yesh Oimrim. The Mechaber does not decide the machlokes. Ulaharosh, the Rosh himself says that at night you should not make Kiddush on beer, on Cham Medina, rather make Kiddush on the bread. Person can make Kiddush on his lechem if he doesn't have wine. So Friday night, don't make Kiddush on the beer, make it on the bread. Says the Rosh, but on Shabbos day, if there's no wine available, then you can make Kiddush. On whiskey, you make a shachal. On the beer, you make a shachal. Right? So opinion one is you can make Kiddush on beer when there's no wine available. Opinion two is that you can't. The Rosh comes and says, even opinion one, that doesn't apply to Friday night Kiddush. Friday night Kiddush, as long as you have bread, you never will make Kiddush on anything other than wine. There's no wine, it's on the bread, but no other drinks. But Shabbos day, if there's no wine available, you can make Kiddush on Chamar Medina. So again, it sounds like this day and age, where we have wine, the Mechaber says, that's what the Mechaber says. But if we have wine, so there's never a heter to make Kiddush on anything other than wine. And it could be in Europe before the war, they didn't always have access to wine. Maybe that's why they made Kiddush on whiskey, on the hard liquor. But today we have access, and maybe we shouldn't be doing it. That's the Mechaber. Comes the Mishnah Berurah in number 5, Sivkan Chavdali. And he says, the dafke b'makom to havi Cham Medina dahainu. When is the Cham Medina? She'ein yayin matzui b'chol ha'ir. There is no wine available in that entire city. B'shana hazu, in this year. For the year, right? The proof, the source, I should say, for this Mishnah Berurah is our Gemara. Right? Ameimar did not want to make Havdalah on beer the first year he was there, only the second year, because he realized that it's never available. The first year he wasn't sure if it was just punked that week or month it wasn't available. But once he saw that it's a chronic thing, so then he made Kiddush on it. Says the Mishmar adds now, the Iker Shtiyasin Hu Mishecha. Right? The Iker drinking is beer. The Shar Mashin and other Mashin. If there's wine, but it's expensive, it's called Matzah. So the Mishnah Berurah adds a very important line. He says that you can make Kiddush on Chamar Medina when there's no wine matzui for the whole year, and the ikr drinking is that of beer and other drinks. So now all of a sudden, I have a suffix. When the Gemara says, and the Rashbam says, and the Torah says, and the Mechaber says, that you can only use whiskey when wine is not available, is that the simple understanding, when wine is not available? Or is that because when wine is available, so the main drinking is going to be wine? The chashuv drink, when someone comes to your house, you're going to offer them wine. The only time, at least back then, that whiskey and beer would be the main drink in the country is if wine wasn't available. Back then they drank wine, and whiskey was a b'di'evet in general. So when is it going to be shaykh that beer is the main drink? When wine is not available. But let's say there is a new reality that people prefer scotch, people prefer beer over wine, then you could argue even if wine is available, it's the beer, the whiskey is Chamar Medina. So Chamar Medina is defined by what is the number one drink. That is the simple understanding of the Rambam, and we can even put that back into the Rashbam and back into the Gemara. Because back then, of course you drank wine. What kind of person would give up wine to drink beer or to drink whiskey? Wine was the number one drink. So the only time it's shaykh to have beer being the main drink is when there's no wine. But if you find me a place where even though there is wine, beer is the number one, so then the beer is going to be Cham Medina. In which case, Bizman Hazeh, L'chatchila, you can make Kiddush, right? The Kiddush, you can make Kiddush Shabbos day at least, possibly Friday night, but already the Rosh said Friday night is always wine. But at least Shabbos day, L'chatchila, you could argue, you can make Kiddush on beer, on whiskey. The Biur Halacha, brought in the box on the right, makes this point, and he says, look at the Mishnah Berurah, which is from the Magen Avram, but the Das HaRambam is, if most people, the majority of people who drink in this Medina drink beer, it's called Chamar Medina, even if you have wine. The Biur Halacha points out that the Rambam seems to, again, the Rambam holds anyway you can't make Kiddush on it, but leave that aside for a second. As far as when can you make whatever it is on Chamar Medina, the Rambam seems to say that even if you have wine available, but your favorite drink in this Medina is beer. Okay, so we have now raglayim. We have a footing for those who want to make Shabbos Day Kiddush on beer, on whiskey. Continues the Mishnah Berurah, he quotes the Rush, and he says in Chav Zayin, the second underlined part, so Friday night is already untouchable. Friday night, you're making Kiddush on wine. If there's no wine, it's on challah, nothing else. What about Shabbos Day? So it says the Mishnah Berurah, in the last chalik, says the Mishnah Berurah, in our countries, in Radin, in Eastern Europe, in the first half of in the early 20th century, the late 19th century, wine was very expensive. Wine's expensive. And most people, when they drink other mashkin, they're drinking beer, they're drinking whiskey, they're not drinking wine, it's too expensive. Even the Gedolei Yisrael, the great Torah scholars, were not looking to drink wine Shabbos Day. And the Kiddush on Shabbos Day is only rabbinic, according to everyone. And they rely on those who are lenient who say, which is the base, which is, I guess, the Rambam, you can argue. The Rambam said you don't make Kiddush on beer. That's referring to Friday night. It's their ice. But Shabbos Day, maybe the Rambam would say you could make Kiddush on beer. And the Rambam doesn't require there's no wine available. As long as the main drinking is something else, that's good enough. So says the Mishnah Berurah, the Gedolim, that's why this carries a lot of weight. Because it wasn't, there are two types of minhagim. There are minhagim, customs that like evolve, that no one asks the shayla really. So it's a shas of chak, and Yisrael Nevi'im him, and we have to find the limud schus, right? But then there are certain times that you see the Gedolim themselves are being lenient in something, or doing something that seems to not fit. So the Mishnah Berurah observes that the Gedolim in pre-World War II Europe were making Kiddush on beer, Shabbos Day, making Kiddush on whiskey, Shabbos Day. Okay? So they're relying on the opinions that are lenient. Wine is very expensive. It says the Chavetz Chaim that he who makes Kiddush Shabbos Day on wine, it's definitely a mitzvah min hamukar. It's like the best thing, the first class seats, they're going to make Kiddush on wine. But it sounds like it's lichatchila to make Kiddush Shabbos Day on beer, since that's the majority of people drinking, and wine is very expensive, but the best is going to be on wine. In the next Sifkatan, the Mishnah Berurah says, in Sifkatan Lamed, the im chaviv lo yayin sarf. Yayin sarf is whiskey. If whiskey is chaviv to the individual, yachal l'kadosh olav b'yoyim lichatchila. Beer, the Mishnah Berurah says, okay, really you should make it on wine. I see chashav yid making it on beer. They're relying on the lenient shitas. Fine, that's okay. But if the best and the best is to make it on wine. But if it's chaviv, once we add, it sounds like when it came to beer, the oilam would much prefer to have wine. But wine's expensive. So mimela, the roiv shtiyasa is beer. So you can make it on beer. We have a limud schos. The gedolim did it, it's fine. But if you like the sharmashkin better, people like the whiskey better, and even if wine would have been cheaper, the drink of choice is whiskey. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you can make Kiddush l'chatchila on the whiskey. It's a pretty strong endorsement for the minhag today. People make Kiddush l'chatchila Shabbos Day on whiskey. It's a mefurish of Mishnah Berurah. It's pretty good. But it says the Mishnah Berurah, there's a catch. There's one catch. For some people, it's not going to be a problem. For others, it might be. So it says the Mishnah Berurah, say in our countries, Shu Chamar Medina, Tindas Chamar Medina. Ach sheyizoher, but one has to be careful. Likach kois machzik revius. It's to be careful to take a cup that holds a revius. It's around 3.3 ounces. So the shiurim are the same. So you can't just take a shot glass. Take a shot glass and take one shot. That's no good according to the Mishnah Berurah. You're not yoytzi kiddush like that. A person has to make sure that his cup is a revius, and he drinks the majority of the revius. As the Mishnah says. Okay, if you don't have any wine, let's say the grape juice is finished, all you have is the whiskey, that you can't drink Lugmav, and you have no other wine, so if everybody there is going to drink a little bit, a shot of whiskey, together, those who are being Yoitze Kiddush, they're drinking equals the Roy Revius, so you can rely on a Shita in the previous sim, the B'diavad, that's fine. But if you want to be, and we all want to be, L'chatchila Yidin, that's what we strive for, otherwise, a fundamental flaw. So we all want to be L'chatchila Yidin. So I take a Becher now. The Bechers we have, if you go back to the pre-Pesach Shir, we went to the Shiurim, the Bechers we have are like 8 or 9 ounces. The average size Becher is 8 or 9 ounces. I remember that year I took the Mayim Achronim cups we have here in the Shtibel. Those are more than Revius. 2 of the Shtibel shot glasses, which are a little bigger than a regular shot glass, those are just over Revius. So get a cup, it's exactly 3.3 ounces, drink the majority of the cup. That is, as long as you love whiskey, or you love vodka, whatever, you love beer, that is the L'chatchila Shabbos day. A psak from the Mishnah. Yeah.
Does it say Rove Kos, or does it say a cheekful?
So he says the majority of the Revius, which is a cheekful.
Right.
So
I heard that you make the Kiddush on Shabbos day over a Revius, but the requirement is only to drink a cheekful, not a Rove Kos.
That's what he's saying here. He's saying Malay Lugmav is a cheekful. A cheekful usually is going to equal the majority of a Revius. I guess a cheek can hold around 1.6 ounces. It's synonymous, Roiv Revius and cheekful. So that's how much. But a shot could be less than that. A shot might be less than a cheekful. I mean, fill any liquid in your cheek and spit it into a measuring cup, and you see how much it is. Don't do it in front of other people, though. Okay, so that's the Mishnah, very chashiv, right? That's what comes out. So in number 6. The Mishnah Brura, the Shulchan Aruch in Reish Tzadik Vav, which is the Siman on Havdalah, there the Mechaber Paskins and Sif Beis, the Ein Mavdil al Pas, you can't make Havdalah on bread, you can make Kiddush, remember on Havdalah, but al Hashecher Mavdilim, the Mechaber Paskins, you can make Havdalah on beer, Imhu Chamer Medina, if it's Chamer Medina. Put in the Shar Mashkim, except for water. Okay. The Mishnah Brura says in Sivka and Ches over there, if there's no wine. Meaning the Mechaber doesn't have to say that because he said it already back in Hilchos Kiddush in Reish Ayin Beis. He said that Chamer Medina is only Chamer Medina if there's no wine. And if there is wine, wine comes before everything else. If you have wine, you should make Havdalah on the wine. The Chazal Hifligu Gamkein the Goydel Mitzvah. And now the Mishnah quotes Mamari Chazal where they describe the tremendous mitzvah in using dafka wine. Somebody who makes Havdalah on wine, or is Yoitze Havdalah, when someone is making Havdalah on wine, Hashem calls him a Kadosh, when he says school and makes him a special, his cherished treasure. So the Torah over there brings, it's very chashuv to use wine. Parenthetically, I've heard from 2 people. One was my brother-in-law, and someone else that I know in Melbourne told me that when you go to Chaim Kanievsky about, a person, let's say, doesn't have children, or a person, the children are coming to more space than they'd like, they ask him, Chaim Kanievsky, Shlita, what should I do to be zoiche to children? He says, make Havdalah on wine. That's what he says. Make Havdalah on wine. So maybe it's coming from here, maybe it's coming from other sources, but there's an Indian in specifically Havdalah being made on wine. It's a skula. Okay, so that's what Mishnah Berurah says. The Mishnah Berurah later, in I think it's in Sifkat and Tess over here in Reish Tzadik Vav, he says, Al Yayish on whiskey, Ein Kedai Lahavdil. You shouldn't make Havdalah on whiskey. He said by Kiddush Shabbos day, it's L'chatchila. By Havdalah, Mishnah Berurah says, not Kedai. Why? Because the Magen Avraham says that most people, when it comes to Havdalah, they drink the whole cup themselves. They don't dispense to other people. That's the minute. And it's hard to drink a roy revius, a cheekful of whiskey. it's kosher l'kaim zeh. But when there's no other mashke, so you could use it, just make sure you drink the majority of revius or the cheekful, which is the same thing. Because less than that, you're not yotzei. If a person drinks less, he's not yotzei. So anyone at these kiddushim or by Avdallah who's drinking less than a cheekful, less than, let's say, 1.6 ounces, he's not yotzei kiddush. He's not yotzei Avdallah. But a person who's drinking 1.6, 1.7 ounces, he's yotzei kiddush by Shabbos day and Havdalah 100% lechatchila. There is, the Mishnah Berurah here definitely sounds more hesitant than the one there. The one by Kiddush Shabbos day says lechatchila, it's not a problem. Here, there's a hesitation, but it's only because it's hard to drink that amount. But if one drinks that amount, we can confidently say it's lechatchila. That's what the Mishnah Berurah says. So that's really like part number one, kind of. That's the first section. We're establishing where does Chamer Medina apply? And the answer is Kiddush Friday night, not a chance. Totally inappropriate. You can't use it. It's almost, you're not going to find a case. We don't have bread or whatever. So using wine, using bread. Shabbos day and Avdallah, if it's chaviv, if I like it better than wine, and we're in a place where the majority of people are drinking the whiskey, they're drinking the beer, which definitely is the case today, then for Shabbos day Kiddush, and for Avdallah it's lechatchila, as long as I have a cup that holds 3.3 ounces, and I drink the majority of that. I drink around 1.7, so then I can make Kiddush, Shabbos day, and Avdallah lechatchila. So that's when it comes to whiskey, that's when it comes to beer. Those are for sure Chamer Medina. The question now I want to segue into is, what about other drinks? I've seen people make Havdalah on milk. What about tea and coffee? Can a person make Kiddush and Havdalah on tea and coffee? So the Mishnah Berurah in Sivkan Yud there, in Hilchos Havdalah, he quotes two drinks, one that I'm not familiar with, one that I've heard the name, but I don't exactly know what it is. He discusses, can you make Havdalah on kavis and borscht? So kavis, they say, is some Russian fermented drink. Borscht also seems to be a fermented drink. So can you make Havdalah on them? The truth is, what exactly they are is not so relevant. It's relevant why they explain why these things are no good. So the Mishnah Berurah says, it's clear from the Taz and the Eli Rabbah that even b'shas hadchak, you can't. Even though everybody drinks this. You come to someone's house, they give you borscht, they give you kavis. It's like the drink, the number one drink. I still cannot use it for Chamer Medina, even if I don't have wine. They're like water. Even if water is the drink of choice in this town, it doesn't make a difference. You cannot make Havdalah or Kiddush by Shabbos day on water. There must be a certain chashivas, in addition to being the drink of choice, there must be a certain chashivas. These drinks do not make the cut. That's what the Taz and the Eli Rabbah paskin. There is a Chaye Adam, the Mishnah Berurah brings says Shasat Chak. You have no choice. You can make Havdalah on Kavis. Says the Mishnah Berurah, I don't understand this Chaye Adam. He says maybe the Chadim held that it's a Chosh v'Mashkin. He's not sure. Okay, that's the Shah. Say that's what the Mishnah Berurah says. So we're gonna skip. No, let's do the Aruch HaShulchan outside, and then we'll get to the Igros Moshe, because I want to get to the Igros Moshe. We have 11 minutes. So the Aruch HaShulchan notices that the Olam is making, in his times, they're making Kiddush by day on Sheikha, on beer. They're making Kiddush by day on beer, and he doesn't, all the Limudei Schus, he doesn't go to Mishnah Berurah's Svara. He doesn't like it. He says it doesn't make sense. His lashon is, the Gedolei Hador are making Kiddush Shabbos day on beer. All the Svaras, he brings 4 Svaras, they're all b'di'evet. He doesn't understand. So he wants to say, he says, call a time in Makar Miskabin Alev, they don't make sense. So wine is definitely better. So how can we explain to the Aruch HaShulchan why everyone today is making Kiddush by Shabbos day on beer? So he says that the Rishonim, the Kadmonim, that lived in Bavel, they lived in Spain, they lived in France and Germany, those places, there was a lot of wine. Wine was abundant. But we're living in the northern countries, in Eastern Europe, Russia, Poland, the northern countries. Everyone knows that we don't have wine. We have no access to wine. And the wine that comes from other places, the imported wines, are very expensive and also don't come with good hashgacha. It's not a new thing, right? Aruch Shulchan says the wines coming from the imported wines that don't have a good hashgacha, and all we have is like raisin wine, which is, it's even a shaila if you can make a bar priya gafen on raisin wine, the way they made it back then. It's a big shaila he discussed back in Hilchos Brachos. So therefore, like this, Friday night we have no choice. We have to say this raisin wine is wine because you can't make it a Char Medina. So fine, that's what we do Friday night. But Shabbos day and Havdalah, once there is an opinion that says we can use the Char Medina, so the Olam is so not happy with the raisin wine, they use the Char Medina. That's what they use. He goes on and he says that I've seen Gedolim making Havdalah on milk and tea and sweet tea. That's already a step further. He's explained why they're using the beer Shabbos morning. Beer is definitely Char Medina. The question was, they have wine, but the wine is so shvach, the raisin wine, so they make it on beer. But I've seen Gedolim making Havdalah on milk and tea. How does that work? There's no way you can call milk and tea Char Medina, says the Aruch HaShulchan. But because of the lachatz, zuat chak, we have no wine, and beer also is not, we don't have that much beer, or a person's concerned from Chadash. Beer is made from barley and is concerned for Chadash. So we have no choice. We have no choice. Havdalah, where it's hard to drink so he says, Friday night we're making Kiddush on the bread. Shabbos day we're making it on whiskey. It's very hard to drink the whiskey on Motzei Shabbos. So therefore, they look for any mash they can find. They find milk, they find tea, and many people drink this throughout the week. So therefore, we make Havdalah on tea and on milk. And his lashon is, we can't call them Char Medina. He says that he says people drink it during the week as like when they invite someone, they drink. They offer them milk and they offer them tea. So we have no Char Medina and we have no wine. We have no choice. Where is a Shem Mashka we use? So we use milk, we use tea. So we have three levels. We're talking about Shabbos day and Havdalah. We have wine, that's the best. Then we have beer and whiskey, that's for sure Char Medina. Then milk and tea, the Aruch HaShulchan is like, I can't call Char Medina, but it's something, it's a mashke, and we have no other choice. So for us, you should never be making Shabbos day Kiddush or Havdalah on milk and tea. So Moshe finds it as a tshuva in our Chaim Chelik Beis Siman Ayin Hey. He's talking about soda. Is soda considered Char Medina? And Moshe gives us, as Moshe often does, he gives us a very clear definition of Char Medina. And we can apply this to everything. Zakter Moshe. Soda is not Char Medina. You cannot make Kiddush or Havdalah on soda. Now, Rav Moshe is going to give us a mitzias that we have to see if it applies, if it's the same thing today or if things have changed. Zakter Rav Moshe, that of course people are mechabed you. You come to the house, would you like a Diet Coke, right? So Char Medina is a drink that you're mechabed a person with, right? So you zicha get mechabed, people mechabed you with soda. But Zakter Rav Moshe, hakavod behem hu gam kein rak shetzrichen lozeh. Only if you need to drink, if you're thirsty. Just like a cold water also, you're mechabed a person with. Chashivas mashke hu she'ena shtia machma shetzrichen lehem l'tzmam el'shoysim oisim af beloy tzarech l'gufa. It says Char Medina is only when you're mechabed a person with his drink, even if you're not thirsty. You would never give someone cold water if they're not thirsty. If they're thirsty, they come into your house on a good South Florida, Shabbos afternoon in the summer, so you're going to give them cold water only because they're thirsty. You're not going to offer someone cold water to mechabed them if they're not thirsty. Char Medina is only a drink you give someone when they're not thirsty. You offer someone a shot of whiskey. You don't ask, are you thirsty? You want to quench your thirst with whiskey? You don't do that. You offer them a whiskey because the drink is be'etzim, it's objectively mechubed. So he says, and Moshe continues, and he says, even those who are matir to make Kiddush and Havdalah on sweet tea, ayin ba'aruch HaShulchan, he quotes Aruch HaShulchan, nira shebeti derech ha'olim shemechabdim v'shoysin av she'en tzrichin klal lishtos. You drink tea and we can add coffee, even if you're not thirsty. You come to someone's house, you like a coffee. Oh, I'm so thirsty, I'd like to have a coffee. No, you drink tea and coffee even when you're not thirsty. You don't drink to quench your thirst. These are drinks that are objectively chashiv, that you drink them because of the chashiv qualities. Even though tea is really just, it's just water, but since we're mechabed people to have a tea, even when they're not thirsty, it gets the status of Chamar Medina. So that's what Moshe's gathered. Any drink that you drink to quench your thirst, no matter how chashiv it is, if it's a drink that's only drunk to quench your thirst, it's not Chamar Medina. You can't make Kiddush or Avdal on that. But if it's there, even not to quench your thirst, then you can. So we'd say, in Rav Moshe's belt, soda and probably orange juice also, orange juice as well. Soda and orange juice are things that you drink when you're thirsty. And tea, coffee, milk, whiskey, beer are things that you drink because of the chashivas. So he goes on to say that when it comes to milk, so when you're mechaber of someone with milk, Rav Moshe writes, and we'll see if this applies today, you can't say, no, I'm not thirsty. When you offer someone whiskey, no, I'm not thirsty. You offer him coffee, no, I'm not thirsty. That's not how you respond. So Rabbi Schreck writes that milk, you don't reject an offer of milk by saying you're not thirsty. That's his raya, that milk is not coming to quench your thirst. The chalav shoysin gam shlolit simon. You drink milk even if you're not thirsty. Therefore, milk is b'chlal epis shaychus to Chamar Medina. But soda, you only drink them, says Rav Moshe, if you're thirsty. So you're mechaber a person to quench his thirst with soda, but you would never offer soda if the person is not thirsty. So he says, therefore, when it comes to tea and milk, with a doichak gadol, we can rely on this Aruch as the Aruch HaShulchan also does, that they are considered to be Chamar Medina-like because they don't come only to quench the thirst. The chisaron in milk and tea, they're not really chashiv. Tea is just water. I guess milk also is not really like that chashiv, but you're mechaber a person even if he's not thirsty. So if you have no wine, and you have no beer, and you have no whiskey, halach l'maisa, you can make kiddush by day, and you can make avdallah on milk and tea. Rav Moshe's mistapik, is tea better because it's more chashiv, or is milk better? He's not sure. He says use either one. He says soda, even b'shas tzchak, one cannot. So number one is going to be wine, right? Whiskey and beer. The Mishnah Berurah says if you like it, it's number one. The Aruch HaShulchan says it's always a number two. Beer and whiskey, if you have wine, are always a number two. Milk and tea are number three. If you don't have wine, whiskey, and beer, then you have milk and tea. But soda, Zakt of Moshe, you can never use. That's what he says. So the question is today, do we give people, you come to my house, you like a Diet Coke, you like a Coke. Is that only to quench your thirst? Or do we drink soda today more as like a drink? That's question number one. Question number two is coffee. If Moshe is not handling coffee, would coffee be on the level of of whiskey and beer? Because coffee is not just colored water. Although places can do when it comes to bishalakim, they do handle it. But it depends how strong the coffee is. It depends what kind of coffee. With the instant stuff, yes, but the real freshly brewed coffee beans, maybe you can argue a Keurig machine. It's a chashiv. It's not just water. It's a chashiv drink. Yesh lodna, if coffee is going to be categorized as whiskey and beer, or it can be categorized as tea. But that's what Moshe says. Now, my brother-in-law told me, Rabbi Chaim Soloveitchik, he told me that his father, Baron Soloveitchik, held that you could use soda as Chamar Medina. I'm not sure if Baron Soloveitchik held that soda, you are mechaber a person even if it's not to quench their thirst, or if Baron Soloveitchik held that's not the definition of Chamar Medina. Maybe Baron Soloveitchik held that any drink that you're mechaber a guest with is Chamar Medina, even if it's only used to quench the thirst. There's a whole soda industry out there. So it could be an nafkamina for orange juice as well. In Eretz Yisrael, orange juice is definitely more chashuv. So these will all be shalas. But okay, bottom line, halacha l'maisa, wine is your number one option, right? Because the Aruch HaShulchan is not happy with all the reasons given for beer on Shabbos morning, and he explains why it was only dafka in those times that the Gedolim used beer, but really you should be using wine. Lamaisa, you have the Mishnah Berurah. One who does it has a Mishnah Berurah saying it's the Chatchila. It's one of those cases where the Mishnah Berurah says, if you like the whiskey, if you like the beer, it's the Chatchila. The Aruch HaShulchan says it's not. It's a machlokes Mishnah Berurah Aruch HaShulchan. Usually Aruch HaShulchan is the maker. Here the Aruch HaShulchan is the machmir. So the zikr is a makom for a person to say, I'm making Kiddush only on wine. But if someone wants to make Kiddush Shabbos day and Havdalah on beer and on whiskey, because they like that better, they can definitely come with the Chavetz Chaim and say it's the Chatchila, as long as they drink a Roy Revius. They have a cup that holds a Revius, and they drink that Roy Revius at 1.7 ounces. Coffee would be the next best. Tea and milk are going to be the Eved, and according to Moshe, soda is a no-go. That's the bottom line. So especially next week, maybe we'll see the other poskim and see how they define the Chamer Medina. But what do you think? Is soda something that one person drinks even not to quench their thirst these days?
Yeah, I mean, when someone comes to a house, they say, want a soda? So, yeah, I think it's used as a social, not necessarily just a thirst quencher. When you talk about tea, a few minutes ago you said sweet tea, but then you didn't say sweet anymore. So you talked about plain tea or sweet tea. And the reason I'm asking is on, Shabbos morning, you're not supposed to have anything to eat or drink before you daven. But then they say water, black coffee. Some people say put a little sugar in it. Some people say put a little milk in it. Tea, they say no problem unless you add sugar. So I guess what I'm asking is, does something become a Chamer Medina only if you add sugar to make it more chashuv, or just straight tea bag and water?
That's a good question. The language in the Aruch HaShulchan, as well as every time the Igros Moshe says it, it's always tei. No, here he says tei by itself. It starts out by tei masa, because that's the Aruch HaShulchan's case, is the sweet tea. It sounds like the sweetness gives it more chashivas.
Right.
And which is why the idea of what we can and can't drink before davening is we don't want to tend to our physical needs before Hashem. We daven to Hashem and that we should stay alive. So whatever I need to get by, just to wake myself up, I can do, but I shouldn't start indulging in luxuries. So when it comes to tea and coffee, it really depends on a person's taste. In other words, I know people that will not drink black coffee. It means even if they're tired and they need a caffeine pickup, they will, if they're fleshig, they will not drink a black coffee. A person like that can put milk in his coffee because that's not a sign of arrogance. But a person who could drink a black coffee, who just likes it with sugar and with milk, so then that person should not be having with sugar and milk before davening. So, getting back to your question, you are right that the Aruch HaShulchan and the Igros Moshe both say tea masak. My guess is because that makes would have tea today, that if the chashuv tea drinkers today would say that no, the spitz tea is without sugar, so then that would be the Chamer Medina.
Out of Rabbah, if you go to a Persian person's house and that tea is like their main drink, it's always with sugar. If you go in the English Welt, over in England, it's always with sugar and a little bit of cream. So just tea bag and water, stam is not how the chashuv tea drinkers drink it. They put all honey or sugar or something.
Right. Today as well, we would say that it would have to be, if that's how they drink it, then it would be, then the Chamer Medina would only be if it's sweet. So that's the story. But okay, so soda could be soda today. People drink, and I agree with you. I think it's a social drink at a wedding, wherever you go out, you have a soda, not because you're thirsty, it's a social drink. So we could argue in Rav Moshe, it might be the same level as whiskey and beer, because it's not just water. There's a lot of other things in the soda. So Rav Moshe, it never even groups it with the tea and the milk. Those are inherently less chashuv. The tea is just water ba'alma. But the soda, we can argue today, maybe it's a good thing to take a survey what people think. Soda, one can make an argument today in the Igros Moshe even would agree that you could make Kiddush l'chatchila. Now, if you like soda, and it's not hard to drink a revius of soda, right? So according to the Mishnah Berurah, it could be l'chatchila, Shabbos morning, as well as for Avdal, you can fill up your becher with soda and drink it. And that'd be l'chatchila. So then maybe next week we'll tie together all these loose ends and see what the other place can say.
I mean, another riot that soda is chashuv is a lot of people will only drink it on Shabbos.
Right.
During the week, there's no soda. On Shabbos, that's the Shabbos treat, so to speak. They said, "Allow soda to be drunk in the house."
Right.
That's not for thirst. That's because it's a chashuv thing,
Right. No one's drinking soda at the Shabbos because they want to quench their thirst. It's right. It definitely seems today to be more of just a way to mechabit someone. Okay. Excellent. Shkoyach.
Great to you. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your evening.
You too. Thank you.